A very good morning to all, and thank you for joining us for yet another engaging webinar on gamification in HR processes in partnership with Changing. I am Shweta from People Matters, and before speaking about today's agenda, let me give you a brief about today's topic. In this digital age, it has become essential for the HR to move beyond the conventional norms of emails and calendar invites. Gamified approach to complex matters is becoming the norm in organizational processes. The current scenario calls for exploring the possibilities of spreading the word, garnering partnership, participation, and creating undeniable buzz about HR processes using game dynamics both online and offline. In this webinar, we will explore ways to increase HR policy and process participation in your organization through gamification, how to spread the word about HR processes beyond constant emails and calendar reminders in a fun and interesting manner, and of course, how organizations can apply gamification to HR processes. Let me now introduce you to the speakers for this webinar. I am delighted to welcome Tamal Bhatia, founder, Changing. Tamal has a management degree from NMIMS Mumbai with over 17 years of rich experience in the human capital sector. He has worked with the leadership teams of organizations ranging from telecom to manufacturing. He is the founder of 4Degree Consulting, the parent company of Changing. A firm believer in the experiential learning processes, Tamal has successfully designed and developed indigenous games, activities, and complete simulation games like Starship 2320 that assesses the behavioral aspect of leadership. He also holds the patent for Changing Measurement Tech, the tool that is at the core to Changing's offerings. I would also like to welcome Renu Kotian, Head of Product Content and Felicitation, Changing. Renu heads Changing's product portfolio. The flagship product, Sandbox, is creating game contexts for over 25 organizations today. A graduate from Wollongong University in Australia with a gold medal in MBA in HR and with more than a decade experience, Renu brings a truly altruist belief to development that is refreshing to the participants, and her ability to connect with her audience is something that she excels at. Her endeavors have taken her to diverse places from the Everest Base Camp to boardrooms, where she spends time and energy in improving learning products for the next generation. We also have with us today Marjorie Tanikela, Learning Center India Lead, Qualcomm. A learning and development professional with more than a decade of experience in industry in various roles in people development and management, Marjorie is currently the Learning Center Lead at Qualcomm and has a multitude of certificates to her credit, including MBTI, CPBA, OD, instructional designing, and many more. Our partner for today's webinar is Changing. Changing is a brand of 4Degree Consulting Private Limited. Changing is an organization that enables and measures change. At the core of Changing's offerings are technology and content platforms that enable organizations to create scalable outcomes in content or measurement. Changing has been a part of learning industry for the last 17 years and has delivered over 10,000 hours of training across a wide cross-section of clients such as Qualcomm, Cognizant, Wipro, Novartis, Cient, and many others. We have saved time for you to ask questions at the end of the webinar. For those attending the live webinar can submit the questions anytime during the presentation through the Q&A section. As always, we will try to respond to as many questions as the time allows. So, I am really excited and we have a super exciting agenda for today, and I'm excited to hear what our speakers have in store for us today. So, without any further delay, let the experts take over now. Renu, Tamal, and Marjorie, over to you.
Thank you, Shweta. As usual, a very gracious welcome from People Matters. Good morning, everybody. I'm Renu, and I'll be taking over the first half of our presentation today. You'll be hearing from my colleague Tamal and, of course, our guest speaker, Marjorie, later on. We're very happy to be hosting this webinar with People Matters, and the idea behind choosing this particular topic, which is around the gamification in HR processes. The genesis of this stems from the multitude of queries and questions that came up from the last session and also the kind of conversations and inquiries that we've had from our clients in the recent past. So the intention of this presentation is really to share with you from our experience and understanding of how gamification design principles can be utilized for the purpose of engagement and immersion in certain HR processes. Before we begin, I'd like to introduce our organization a little more for those of you who don't know us. We are changing and we enable and measure change through gamified solutions. We have more than 2 decades of development work under our belts, from across clients, different industries. All of our work centers around experiential learning, and we also borrow from the group coaching philosophy. We have practical platforms for measuring change transformation. This, along with all of our work, is of course the result of our fantastic content and operations teams in the back end. So let's begin then. Now, we cannot actually get into the meat of how HR processes can be gamified without spending time on the behaviors that are imperative to take cognizance of before even beginning the design of a gamification platform. So the first question that we like to ask is, why do people play? I invite you to think about a large development initiative or organization initiative that you are engaged in. Why were you interested in being involved? So was it because you had the opportunity to succeed at something? Was it because you found the challenge or the puzzle interesting? Was it because you got to engage with your team, on a different setting beyond the work context? Did you enjoy the fact that there was potential for recognition and visibility in the organization? Did you get to earn content or information as part of the development process? And was it because you got to play a role that you don't normally get to play? There are a multitude of reasons, many reasons why people like to get involved in any initiative. Beyond this list, people like to explore, people like the element of surprise, the use of imagination. Sometimes people just like to goof off and have fun away from the desk. Either way, there is definitely a need to understand the different kinds of motivations at play. Now, in order for us to be able to do that, how do we sort of categorize where people stand in the gamification player type? So what we did was we borrowed from Barthel's taxonomy of player types. Now, yes, this is a model that was initially built for the MMORG world. However, Barthel himself says that while it's not a direct fit it wasn't built for gamification, it can definitely lend itself to the design process if we use it wisely. So in that vein, let me walk you through the model, right? So the model was created by Richard Bartel in an attempt to ensure that designers do a good job of making their games. Not designing because you are a designer, but designing a system for the people who are going to play it. The player types provided designers with a new way to look at psychographic and various motivation and at the different ways that we have fun. So as such, we as designers now have the ability to choose which social actions we can eventually integrate into our design. That's something that, of course, I'll walk you through a little bit later as well. Now, if you look at this is a basic model which maps people on two axes that describe how they interact, namely acting versus interacting, and that's one end of the axis. And the other is players on one end, which is players on one end and the world at the other. And this image is from Kyatric at GameDev++. Of course, you can get that image from there if you want to. Just want to acknowledge where we got the image from. Now, let me walk you through the player types, right? The key 4 player types. Now, achievers, obviously enough, are interested in acting on the world. They're typical gamers. They play to win, give themselves game-related goals, and vigorously set out to achieve it. This is what achievers are like. Explorers like interacting with the world. So they delight in discovery. They try to find out as much as possible about the environment, about the physics of the game, etc., etc. Socializers are interested in interacting with other players. They spend a lot of time chatting and sharing their experience, etc. That's what socializers like to do. And killers like acting on other players. So, of course, there is a certain level of domination, even bullying, when it comes to the different types of games. So there are these kind of players that exist. They use the tools of the game to cause, I'll say distress, but the idea is here that they like to make an impression, and that is through dominance. So while I don't have too much time to go into too much detail, I'll try my best to shed some additional insight on each player's behavior. So let's start with the achievers. Now, they're competitive and they enjoy beating difficult challenges, whether they are set by the game or by themselves. The more challenging the goal, the more rewarded they tend to feel, and they do not need the presence of any other types of player to play, right? The game is what's really important for them, or the gamification system is what is important for them. They focus on attaining status and achieving preset goals quickly, and they are engaged with they're engaged by their achievement, either determined by the game or themselves. Okay, so that's, I'm sorry, I think Kamal, if you could put your mic on mute, that'd be good to start off with. Yeah, all right. Explorers like to explore the world, not just the geography part of it. They also like the finer details of the game mechanics, what they like. These are the kind of people who will be asking you tons of questions and tiny nuances of the intervention. Just think of those kind of people who would have been part of an intervention in the past, constantly asking you questions, checking in with you about, okay, what will happen if I do this? Can I do that? Can I engage with another team? These are the kind of people who are by and large explorers. By the time the intervention is done and their inquiry is done, they have probably know more about the game than you do. So they figure out all the mechanics, the shortcuts, the tricks, the glitches, and like I said, they end up knowing more about the game than anybody else. The trick to engaging an explorer is to have multiple facets to your gamification experience. So having a unilateral design may not work when you have and when you have a lot of explorers, if you have a lot of explorers in your organization. Socializers are more often interested in generating relationships with other players, obviously enough, you can say that from the name. So they help to spread the word and the human feel, about the gamification intention. So, and they're often involved in, community aspects of the game, so even social media, etc. So you can use socializers to take advantage of their, predisposed behavior to boost word of mouth about the initiative that you're trying to do, right? And then, of course, we have the killers. Now, killers, they like to provoke, they like to cause drama, they like to impose themselves over other players, and if the setting of your, say, organization, of the team, or the intervention is around the competitive space, then these are the kind of people you want to actually get onto your game board, right? So they focus on winning, on the rank, on the peer-to-peer competition. So if you want to engage killers in your organization, you engage them by leaderboard and rank. Now, this at the face of it seems like one of our MBTI types, where I look at personality types and I kind of box them in. The idea behind exploring this particular taxonomy of player types is, if I do not understand the makeup of my organization, I cannot then effectively design a gamified solution. I cannot design a gamified intervention without understanding who I'm going to do it for, which is entirely why Richard Bartle created this system in the first place. He created it with the intention that we must understand those who play before we even begin our gamification design. So I hope you've had a brief understanding at least of this, and can also start thinking of your organization in terms of bigger buckets, say departments, say functions, say roles. Where do people tend to sit in this particular model, right? So once you have a model, once we have a handle, we build an inclusive solution. We build a rounded solution. We make sure that we integrate different motivations into our design. One that considers relevant player types and whether the dynamics, the mechanics, and whether the components work for our organization or not. Now, dynamics are, of course, the big picture of the gamification design. Mechanics are how we drive our desired action. And components are eventually what our players finally see, what they experience and what they go through. So an example of decisions that you have to make within dynamics are your constraints, the emotions that you want them to experience, the narrative, the progression, the relationships. Now, it sounds easy when you start off with, but this actually takes a significant amount of thought, especially, so we've designed gamified solutions that are progressional in nature, and we have also designed those that are not. And the reason why there's a distinction is because of your intention at the end of the day. If the system or if the outcome is something that the organization needs to take step by step, or people need to take step by step, they need to grow into a certain understanding of the process, then you choose a progressional mode of design. If not, then you don't choose progressional mode of design. You have a more open player world as such, right? Now, when you come to the mechanics, so obviously you look at things like, okay, what are the challenges? Is there an element of chance? What's the level of competition? Is there a cooperative element that I want part of the game design? What is the feedback mechanism? Are there going to be resources that will be needed by the players as they keep going through the board? The rewards, the transactions, the win states. What are the different kinds of mechanics that will eventually give me the dynamics that I have decided earlier? This is how you design your solution. And last but not the least is components. Now this is so where a lot of our conversations, with a lot of people actually unfortunately begin. Most people begin their conversation with what are the components. So what are the badges? What are the achievements? What are the avatars? What are the boss fights, the selection, the content unlocking? What's the gift that we're going to give? What are the leaderboards going to look like? What's the social graph going to look like? What are the quests that people are going to go through? What are the levels? What are the points? What are the teams going to? What are the team names? What are the virtual goods or goods that we're going to give people? This is the last thing that you decide before you actually complete your gamification design. You start with dynamics, then you go to mechanics, and then you arrive at the component piece of your gamification solution. So just to recap a little bit of what I said, understand the motivation behind, understand what is it that people consider fun in your organization. Do whatever studies that you need to do or the relevant conversations that you need to do. See if you can bucket to a certain degree where larger elements of your organization's population lie. Are they mostly killers or achievers or explorers or socializers? Then accordingly, when we're creating our dynamics, you can see when we're looking at our dynamics, we can see which dynamics make more sense, then accordingly our mechanics, and then accordingly our components. This is how you create a well-rounded gamified solution. So with that, I'm going to now hand it over to Tamal, who will contextualize it to the HR processes. So Tamal, over to you.
Thank you, Renu. Good morning, everybody. Wonderful to be here. And I think Renu has laid a strong behavioral base and motivation that one needs to look at in terms of saying that what am I going to sort of create on my board and how will it motivate different people. So today, one of the primary challenges that we are seeing as HR professionals is getting people to commit and consume different pockets of content, use it in a meaningful manner without having to constantly sort of badger them, without constantly saying, why don't you do this, follow up, email. These are, especially in large organizations, next to impossible to do, and it really does not yield relevant results. The HR processes that are going to, in time, certainly be gamified in some way or the other is what is going to really result in consumption and people participating in the processes to that end. So if we really say that what are the various things that we as HR professionals would like people to do across processes, we are looking at, we would like goal setting, which is an important process, irrespective of whether an individual has to set one or an individual has to set many. Right? We have values. All organizations in some way or the other are driven by their values, and we would like people to imbibe and engage with those values. How do we do that? The easiest way to do that is create one presentation on the LMS, put it out there and say, hey, here you go, guys. This is what it is, and these are our values, and you start acting upon them. But all of us know really that values are not as easy as they seem to be on paper, and they need a significant layer of demonstration. So how do we get value dissemination going? How do we look at performance management? Typically, the entire process of performance management which requires people to engage across the board with peers, managers, subordinates. How are those conversations going to get carried? How are we going to get people to understand what is the process of performance management of the company? Instead of everybody constantly coming back and saying, you know what, I don't fit in and I don't understand it and why has this happened, and the variety of to and fro. If the process can be gamified and we can bring it onto a game board, then at every level of the process, people are able to interact with the game board and understand what the process is all about, and where are they with that particular process. Coaching, career growth, conversations around coaching being a culturally important thing in the organization, and we want to have a slew of internal coaches. How do we enable people to reach out to them, and how do we enable the coaches to be a part of the entire system is some of the things that we could continue to look at. Right? Leadership development, the same applies. We want more leaders, be it first-time leaders, be it middle layer leaders, be it senior layer leaders, across the board. Since the leadership development and the pipeline needs to continuously be there, how do we engage them beyond just saying, this is a program that is good for you, or this is a particular piece of content that is good for you? How do you engage with them to say, it's a process, we need to go through the process and not look at it at one point in time as a single instance of development. So if we look at something like, say, performance management in the entire process, we really are looking at stuff that Renu has talked about, right? So where have you reached? What are the points and badges that one has collected? How are you collecting a particular resource? How are you viewing it? So there is something that one needs to actually consume before one is able to move forward. So if a resource is collected, it is part of what you are going to be doing through the entire process. Where am I moving? How am I moving? You need to move from one place to the other in a spaced manner. It's not like you can go through something in one shot like a manual and say, I'm done. So the progression is basis saying that, there are so many stages, and stage one, these are the things one needs to do, and this is how one would move forward. Depending on how one does, and I'll go back to what Renu talked about, right? You have different kinds of player mentalities, and each player mentality is individual in that sense. And how do you cater for that individuality? By saying that you might want to start someone off at being a very simple space trooper, to take an example, and the apex of that could be that you are a Jedi warrior, right? So depending on how you progress, how you collect points and batches, how you move across various resources, your avatar could change in the performance management system from being a space trooper to being a Jedi warrior. It could be as diverse as that. What's the importance of that is when we have static systems. A static system is one where you're saying that, hey, this is my performance management system, and once you're done, you're done. But what we really want is we want employees to engage with this system. And in order to engage with the system, there needs to be, even in the same system, different layers of capability. So if somebody wants to raise a question and somebody answers the question, what do you do with that? If somebody has a new idea, what do you do with that? So these avatars end up being significantly important. So the quests and levels could be, are you from, and we are in a profession where everybody is familiar with green, black and blue belt, not the karate type, but depending on what we do, right? So your question levels could be, depending on where you are, somebody could be a blue belt, somebody could be a yellow belt. Depending on what quest you choose, you could go for a black belt quest, which means it's reaching out to the achievers, sort of saying that, this is at a higher level, you need to do more, you need to immerse yourself more, right? And where am I in this entire game network? Something that we all would like to know as employees, which is the social graph. Am I in the 5th percentile? Am I in the 95th percentile? If I look at people who are good at process, where am I with process? Where am I with compliance? There is a world of social graphs that are going to be possible on a performance management system. For that matter, pretty much any system that you can think about. And I would just like to say that typically there is a tendency to view gamification at only the game layer. However, not viewing the social layer is going to be singularly poor in terms of reaching out to multiple motivations. The social graph, the socialization angles are significantly important and cannot be diminished. To give you a quick example, you could say, hey, here is my game board. You move from point A to point Z with 6 points in the middle, and you just keep consuming, doing, consuming, doing, consuming, doing. Consuming, doing eventually gets repetitive and boring. So unless you are able to socialize it in some way, that could be debated as to what is the socialization. But socialization is going to be significantly critical to be able to achieve what one needs to, right? I would invite Madhvi to sort of share her view in the matter, and she has significant expertise across the learning spectrum. So Madhvi, that's over to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tamal. Thank you. So first of all, wonderful insights and great talk, Renu and Tamal. Quick introduction, I'm Madhvi and I lead the learning function at Qualcomm India. Obviously, I mean, there is ample opportunity for gamification in the HR, OD and learning functions, and gratefully, I've been with organizations who are willing to experiment and try these things in the HR function. So I could definitely talk you through a few examples that I have implemented along with my teams. One good piece I think to talk about would be the experience of bringing in new employees, which is your entire onboarding and new employee experience. I think that whole area is such a great opportunity to create some amazing gamification with a specific outcome, of course. And it's not just always learning about the organization, but it's also about compliance and what you want to accomplish in the first few months with these employees. So I've worked on a tool which, for example, even before the employee joins into the organization, and they've just accepted the offer, you put the employee on the tool, you give them access to a bunch of resources that they can start reading and engaging in to understand the organization more, the culture more. And it's also about them completing certain formalities that are required, because of which they start to earn points and they start to get avatars, like Tamal pointed out. And at this stage, you're actually alone in the system and you're actually accomplishing points, and you probably you feel like you're playing with the system versus with somebody else. And then as you join into the organization, you suddenly get the capability of actually looking at other people who are joining along with you, looking at their profiles, what have they accomplished, and how can I compete, how can I form teams to engage in learning, to complete certain resources, or to reach out to certain teams, how can I make my mark in the organization. So it's a very exciting phase when an employee joins in, and there's ample opportunity to do stuff there where they can exchange points with goodies, or create avatars and get badges to wear, and it just adds to the entire element of the organization is invested in me and engages them more, and I feel like that's a great area. So while onboarding is there for lateral employees that we onboard, I think another great opportunity is when you get people in large numbers, when you do campus hiring, when you do hiring for people who are really young and just out of college. I think that's another great opportunity where we used a lot of gamification. And when people are there in the room with large numbers like 100 and 150, the dynamics that you can create and the engagement you can create with these number of people is just amazing. So a couple of examples there are, you can use technology and you need not use technology as well, and you can do both. Obviously, technology adds an element of, so much more fun and use to it primarily. A couple of examples there are, using quizzes to enhance knowledge. So you give them a bunch of reading material in their team, so they learn to collaborate as well, and they learn to compete with each other. They build a strategy. They learn how to, speed read or learn this information in a quick period of time, and then as a team they pick up these quizzes, which, by the way, one of the key things that improves engagement on gamification is instant gratification and instant feedback. Something that you can display on a live board that's running there, and people can see who's preceding you, and it's like a live feed that you're getting of your performance. These are very, very exciting, specifically for young college grads who join us. Also, while you're engaging with them, say for like a month or 2 months, onboarding them, integrating into the organization, constantly bringing them back to teach them collaboration, specifically because they come from a very competitive environment. We've had huge success there with collaboration, specifically putting them in teams and getting them to compete with each other. with game boards and goodies and avatars and all of that, and not just on learning but also on performance, on goals, on development, on values, like Tamal said. And for a newcomer who's just come into the organization, to get a flavor of the culture or understanding the values is very, very hard. So for them to understand how does it manifest in their life, the values, how do they manifest, and what can they potentially do, building actions, and they can do that through charts, boards, and all of that. And that has been very, very successful for us. Not just in terms of great feedback, but you can see and you can intuitively tell that the success of the program overall is great compared to doing a regular set of learning for them. The other maybe couple of things that we've done more through technology are creating apps and app stores when employees join the organization. A lot of you would have used the app called QuizUp. So we've had replicated a couple of apps like that where you get to compete with senior employees. You get to learn acronyms that are used in the organization. You get to compete against yourself or other people in the organization. And again, the whole element of moving from a novice to somebody who's an expert in the area. So while you can also get instant feedback and gratification and points, that's been an area of success for us when employees join, and it's on your mobile and you can quickly do it when you have time while you're waiting for a meeting. So the overall picture is also that it need not be a huge initiative that you have to run org-wide and something that has to be built to involve the entire social platform. It can also be plugged into smaller initiatives, even spaces where you have a new, say, a new engagement that you want to inform people about, or a new policy that you want to roll out, or you just want to socialize your existing resources in the organization, tell them what you have. These are great opportunities too for gamification, which are instant and which yield amazing results compared to emails or your normal channels of communication. So there's ample opportunity in these as well. That's all from me, Tamal and Renu. I think we're good to pick up some questions.
So, thank you so much, Madhavi. Sorry, Shweta.
Yeah, sure.
I was just saying thank you so much, Madhavi, for giving us that input. Of course, so much relevance to what learning and development professionals and HR professionals in organizations could actually use for their interventions, what works and what doesn't work. Thank you so much for that insight. We're really done with the whole presentation piece of this. So yeah, we're open to questions. Shweta, if you could help us out with managing that.
Sure. So definitely, thank you for such a wonderful presentation. All our three speakers were amazing, and yes, we have a plethora of questions pouring in us. So we'll just quickly move on to the first question, which is coming from Gaurish. So he has asked question in two parts. I'm going to take both of them together. He says, what are the risks involved in designing processes, and how do you sell the idea of gamification to the HR team?
Right. So what I'll do is I'll just start off with the risk piece of it. I did see that question before, and Tamal, maybe you can obviously add on to that. Now here's the thing about gamification design, and of course this is not a new concept to anyone basis the work that you've done. When it comes to any intervention, any thing, there is no one right answer. Nobody gives you a handbook of this is what's going to work and this is what's not going to work. The risk is that could you get an intervention wrong? Could you, lessen your time and effort in a particular aspect of the gamification platform and it not work? That's entirely possible. So that's the risk that you could face. However, the point of this entire webinar was exactly that we take a calculated risk. We take the choices that we make about what our gamification platform is made of is something that we consciously decide, and we don't just jump on a bandwagon of what is currently being done in another organization. So, for example, Madhavi mentioned earlier about using using a version of the QuizUp app. That is something that could work for her organization. But what if your organization has a completely different culture? What if you have more socializers in your in your organization than you have killers. So that is something that you need to be cognizant of before you even design. So the risk is we can get things wrong, and we must have our plan Bs and plan Cs in the back end to make sure that we cover those. But it's not risk-free, but being smart about it, being thoughtful about it, being mindful about the choices that we make in your gamification design, that's really what's going to mitigate that risk. That's part one of the question, right? Tamal, anything for you? If there's anything that you want to chime in?
No, that's great, Renu. I think that covers the angles. That's fine.
Sure. I mean, did I miss any part of the question, or have we completed the answer for that one?
Sure, I think it was perfectly answered. And there's one more similar question. I would want to pose that as well if you want to add any other thoughts to that. So this question is coming from Isha, and she wants to know how can one gain agreement from the management or leadership on ROI of a gamification process? So I thought this is similar to what I had asked earlier. If you would like to share any thoughts on this as well.
Sure. So I cannot tell you, Isha, the number of times that this is a concern not only for gamification but for any initiative that's taken up. And we won't be able to give a perfect Excel sheet presentation to your management. However, in the space of human resources, this is what we do. There are certain behaviors that you desire of your audience. That's how you start off with. That's the HR intention. Tamal spoke about it earlier. When you decide your intention, you have your end game design, which means that, okay, so say just for example, say consumption of content, right? So say there are certain pieces of the value matrix or something like that you want to share and you want to make sure everyone consumes. As a result of that consumption, there are certain values that the organization is going to, there is a value that the organization is going to get. And basis that value is where you generate your proposition for your management or leadership. You're not getting agreement for the gamification process. What you are trying to pitch for is the benefit of the gamification process. The gamification platform that you build, you're not trying to get their agreement on whether it's going to be a wow factor or not. That's a given. That's the fun part of it. But from an outcomes perspective, what is it that the organization is going to see? How is that going to say boost productivity? Use your existing organization metrics. This is how you will be able to garner agreement from management leadership. Madhavi, actually, I'd like to open it out to you if you have any comments on this particular question. I'm sure it's pertinent for you.
Renu, sorry, can you give me a little more clarification on what you're asking from me?
Sorry, so Isha from the participant chain has asked a question about how one pitches or communicates or garners agreement from management and leadership on gamification process and the ROI, etc. So I said my piece on it, and I was just wondering if you had some input on it, from your own experience of challenges in that space. And I know that we don't always have all the right answers, but if you could share anything from your experience.
Sure. I think it's straight away, number one, it's very challenging, especially given the fact that you have different generations of people at work, and not everyone can see the either the ROI or the element of fun that is involved, the element of engagement and fun that's involved. So it's not always selling the outcome really on what you want to accomplish, and that you'll probably definitely accomplish more, but it's also the entire process. So while you're learning or while you're engaging in socializing a policy and you're using gamification for it, the level of fun and engagement a person goes through versus actually having to read it. So you're enabling your employees more, you're making things happen for them much more easier, which is very hard to quantify. I think this is something not everybody would buy into, and it's hard to sell. But this is the key element apart from the outcome that you're wanting to accomplish. And people would say, if we made a mandatory training, people still read it. So why should I gamify this? I will still get my outcome, but you will still have employees who are more engaged and appreciate that there is effort being put in to make the same experience better for them. And it shows in the organization culture, where some organizations accept this and some don't.
Thanks, Madhavi. Thank you so much. Shweta, we're good for the next question.
Sure. And thank you so much for answering that. And we have so many questions lined up. So I'll quickly move on to the next one, which is coming from Sugata. It's a short and crisp question. So Sugata wants to know how to gamify the process of coaching and mentoring.
I'll take that. Sugata, the thing really is that how to gamify the process is first a function of creating a process workflow. So if you say my process workflow is starting with identification of people who will get coached and who are going to be the coachees and so on. So that is one part of the process. The next part of the process is to say if this entire process has to go on for say 8 weeks, 15 weeks, 30 weeks, which means across these 30 weeks, you need to have different things that are going to happen. So it could be meetings, it could be conversations, it could be action projects, depending on what you define as your process. So once that part is decided, then you can go about creating the gamification layer of saying, how much does what contribute to the entire movement of the coaching process? So there would actually be a separate sort of gamification running for the coaches, while there would be a separate sort of gamification running for the coachees. Both being integrated or being interdependent because they are both together in the entire process. I hope that clarifies things, but I would like to say this clearly for anything, which is one has to define what is going to be my process. Only then gamification comes. We cannot just gamify something for the sake of gamifying it. Thank you.
Thank you, Tamal. Renu and Madhvi, would you like to add something to that or we move on?
I'm good.
Just a quick word to add is we are actually in the process of trying to do something like that. And obviously it's not an easy area where you have clear defined outcomes that you want to reward. It's not easy, but like Tamal pointed out, the approach will be very different for mentors versus mentees, what the outcomes that we are defining for them. And there can be multiple criteria, which is how engaged you are, how proactive you are, and what have you accomplished, how much have you completed. So there can be multiple criteria that choose to add, but that's about what is the outcome you want to accomplish, what is that you want to reward, what is that you want them to do more, and what is that you want them to do less. So it's a choice that you make.
Sure, great. So thank you for answering that, and moving on to the next question, which is coming from Hiral. So Hiral wants to know what are the kind of commercials involved in developing this process, and how can gamification help in recruitment? She continues saying, I know of a company that uses gamification as a part of hiring process, but does not really know its effectiveness.
So I think, thanks. That's a real broad-based question in terms of and the entire scene of gamification. So let me first start with saying costs. Costs are primarily a function of deciding what sort of outcomes one wants, how much technology one wants, and how much depth of granularity in terms of what you want. I will qualify that by saying one could say, you know what, I don't need too much information. I just need a baseline place for people to engage, which means it's a fairly straightforward, simple game board where your game is running. People are interacting with the game board. They are getting what they are getting and you're moving on. That's a relatively simple design. A more complex design would be that you are in a multi-pronged engagement mode where you're interacting with them on their desktop, laptop, you're interacting with them on their mobile, you're integrating both these systems to make sure that the entire process of what you want to gamify is moving in a direction the way you want it to move, right? The third thing is recruiting, is there a place for gamification in recruiting? There certainly is, but a lot would really depend on an organizational policy, which is to say that when somebody applies, do you only allow them to apply through your own job portal? Or are you open to looking at resumes coming in from the outside? So let me take the first case, which is something that is easily gamifiable, that anybody who needs to apply for a job in your organization needs to get into your particular portal, zone, whatever you want to call, to apply. And you have a fixed process around that saying, I would like him to apply, or he has come onto the portal, and he or she will then move through an entire process from, do you know that the company also does this? Would you like to take a quick quiz? Would you like to recommend somebody else for any other job that you see? These are all angles that are gamifiable in, say, recruitment. So it's important really to say, honestly, anything is gamifiable. Like Renu said, what are the outcomes? Madhvi also talked about that. What are the outcomes we desire? Is the outcome that this guy should be, one outcome could be, hey, he went through a great experience, he told 10 more people and that lowered my recruiting cost because I got more referrals. Hey, he didn't get the job, but he still said, I love this process and you know what, I would recommend it to anybody. One output's met. Or you are dropping, your quality of resumes coming in are getting better, people are talking, there is a buzz, there's a wide variety of things that we could do. Yeah. Thank you. That was a wonderful question. Thank you.
Thank you. Renu or Madhvi, you want to add something to that?
PwC actually has like a really good,
that was brilliant.
It's called Multiploy, I think. They have a really good talent engagement, and before you actually join the organization, they let you get a sense of their org culture through it. It's pretty nice. PwC, you should check that out.
Sure. Renu, you want to add something?
No, I think with both of them, it's been quite comprehensive.
Great. So let's move on to the next question, which is coming from Subodh, and it is quite interesting. So he says, today we have workforce comprising of traditionalists, generation X, Y, and Z. So how this approach addresses their needs to engage them, as many old generation workforce are not tech savvy. Will this not be a barrier?
Sure. So I'll jump in on that one. Now, I want to make it very clear that just because one mentions the word gamification or gamified solution, it does not mean that this is automatically an online solution. It doesn't mean that there is a wonderful, CG game board that people are playing online. Gamification as an experience is something that can be offline as well. So this is something that, if you really feel the technology is going to be a barrier, and I was just looking at a few of the other questions where, we're talking about blue collar manufacturing industry, will technology be a hindrance, etc. Now, like I said, our tendency is to jump to the component piece, and our tendency is to say, okay, fine, now what are the kind of rewards and experiences that we're going to have? What are the games that we're going to make? That's the end piece, right? That's the decisions that we make later. You design your mechanics, your dynamic mechanics, and then your components, and then you can decide whether it's going to be online or offline. You can definitely have a completely offline gamification experience. It does not have to be online. What you will have to do then, if it isn't online, the difference between online and offline, sorry, I'm just going on a slight tangent here. The difference between online and offline is the speed of communication and the kind of experience that you can create. So with an online solution, you're able to give content a little more quickly, you're able to, monitor a little bit easier, but it also takes a lot longer to develop, especially if it's a customized solution that you're looking for. With an offline solution, with an offline gamified platform, you could definitely have, there is a bit of a challenge in terms of especially larger numbers, say 5,000, 10,000 people, there's a challenge of how do we reach so many people, but that's when you have larger teams coming into the picture and you have, champions or other stakeholders that become part of your gamification process. So technology itself is not the only way of executing a gamified platform. There are many channels to do so, and I hope that answers your question.
Sure. Thank you so much for taking that up, Renu. So quickly moving on to the next one, which is coming from Arpita. So she wants to know, can you give some examples of some of the HR policies on which a gamification was applied or can be applied?
Right. So just the top of my head, the most recent conversations that we've been involved with, there's been a pre-boarding conversation, which is very, very interesting. onboarding, of course. There's a new values dissemination conversation that we're a part of. There is a performance management system. In fact, education drive that's come up. And of course, learning and development is something that actually brought gamification into this side of the world in the first place. Some of the departments that Kamal also mentioned earlier in his presentation, in his part of the presentation, where he talked about coaching, leadership development, these are all processes that we could develop, that anyone could develop gamified solutions for. Am I missing anything? Madhavi, Tamal, do you see any other possibilities that I've not mentioned?
I think thanks, Renu. I think the answer to this is going to be more detailed in terms of an example of a process. So if it's okay with Arpita, we will possibly drop you a line on this, Arpita, because it's going to take significant amount of time. It would be easier and maybe we could take this discussion offline.
Sure, we can definitely take the questions offline. We'll share that with you. So let's move on to the next one then, which is coming from Niru, and it is again an interesting one. So Niru wants to know how effectively can such processes be used to differentiate between hypers, which is high potential, high performers, and C players in an organization.
So I think Niru, that's an interesting question in itself, because the definition of the hypos is something that needs to really be gotten into. So if you say, I want a process to identify hypos, then one needs to go through a significant detailing of how do you evaluate high potentials in the organization, and you want more hypos, so you create a process for that. So the easy answer to this is that what you really need to do is define your processes in terms of how you are going to identify either category and try and encourage more people to get to that particular category. The difficult part of doing something like this, honestly, is that the background work that you really need to do in terms of getting different constituents and whatever, be it culturally or otherwise, is something that will take a very long time. So unless you have a very large bench of people, it might be an expensive exercise. That's what I would say. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Tamal, for answering that. So the next question is coming from Devolina. She wants to know, how can we utilize gamification for learning and development interventions?
Renu, you would like to take that?
Yeah, sure. All right. So again, coming to intention, if the intention of a particular intervention is, and what I actually, before I actually answer that question, what I'd say is this has to be something that takes time, something that you're looking at the effectiveness of your learning initiative for, say, a few weeks at least. It's not one of those things that I can implement a gamified platform or solution only for like a day, that a particular intervention is going on, right? So if my intention is to enhance a particular consumption of content, if it is for the visible development of a particular skill, this is what I built into the design of the gamified platform. So I will look at the kind of constraints that I have. I look at the narrative, I build a story around it. Say for example, if it's about just look at it, say a first-time manager. This is a typical development journey that people like to go on. So from a first-time manager perspective, you ideally as a learning journey, you start off with your sessions, etc., and then you have different methods of engaging with your audience in order to supplement their learning and the behavior development, right? So that's a typical learning journey. Now, what do I gamify about this, right? So like I said, maybe we start with a narrative. We say, okay, fine, the journey of a first-time manager in my organization must be this, should be this. This is what it looks like from start to finish. And, ideally, this is what first-time managers are made of. These are the kind of behaviors that they exhibit. These are the kind of emotions that I want to evoke out of the experience. I don't want them to just be first-time managers who just manage. I want to be also identifying burgeoning leaders in my organization, all of this stuff. So you decide that at the dynamics level. And then from a mechanics level, so now you say, okay, fine, over the next, so I've decided my narrative, I've decided my storyboard. I've decided the kind of journey that I want my first-time managers to go on. How much of it will be, online, offline, and all this stuff, that will come later. Then I decide my mechanics in terms of, all right, so how competitive do I want to make this? Do I want to make it collaborative experience? What is the kind of feedback channel that I have, moving between them? Do I want to have it a more fluid game board, or do I want to have a more fluid gamified solution? That's the second step. And then the last step is finally when I build, all right, so this is where the nomenclatures and all that will come in. At the end of it all, the winning manager or whatever it is, I decide a name for that, and all of that stuff happens all of that stuff is finally decided at the end of this. This is how. Obviously, I'm not going into too much detail, but at a surface level, this is how you would gamify a learning and development initiative. I hope that answers your question.
Perfect. Very well explained, Renu. So I think we can move on to the next question. And the next question is coming from Shruti. Actually, she has two questions, so I'm going to take both of them in continuation. So Shruti wants to know how easy is it to implement a gamified approach for the mentioned topics if it is an electronic platform, because then it becomes a challenge to make it cost effective. Then she moves on to say, if I decide to gamify a process, what are the resources that I would need? Like what are the type of technology and other resources that I would need to implement that?
I'll start off with just the online piece, and then maybe Tamal can take the second part of that question. Yes, there is a cost and time in our experience of building an online solution. You can amortize that cost depending on the number of people that you have. For example, if you take an onboarding piece, like if you want to gamify the onboarding journey, now you only have, say, for example, 20 people, 30 people joining in a month. You put them on your gamified platform and they stay on that platform for the first 2-3 months of their journey in the organization. After that, what happens, right? You amortize that over time, your cost over time, with the more and more people you join. But that completely depends on your manpower planning and whether you have visibility on whether new people are coming in or not. So that is if you're making your entire experience online. To obviously help out, if you don't have a budget constraint, or maybe you have an investment constraint for a particular time and you can't really invest in something so big or your numbers are not large, there are always elements of your learning journey of the gamified platform that you can make online. For example, a mobile application or a web cloud-based platform, things like that. Like I said before, the whole thing doesn't have to be online, and especially if you have budget constraints, pieces of that can be online too. Tamal, you want to add on to what I've said, or you want to answer the second part of the question, please?
Sorry, Renu, that's fine. I think in terms of what do you need is a function of what you really want. So if you are looking at, you need some layer of game designers, you need some layer of content, you need some layer of deciding what kind of technology. So are you going to be purely mobile app based, or are you going to be a hybrid between a web based solution and an app based solution? You're going to have to decide on what sort of creatives are you going to make. So if I have to look at saying that you want to do this entirely on your own, it's going to be content, design, technology. Technology will be a function of where do you want to implement and how do you want to implement. So like I said, if it is only a web-based game board, there is X kind of technology. You could look at saying, I'm on the cloud, I'll build it on PHP or any of the other database platforms. Or if you're saying I'm going to go on cloud and mobile, I need a separate set of I need a separate kind of expertise to build that. So really, what sort of technology is a function of what do you want and at what layer do you want. All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tamal and Renu, for taking that. Now we have so many questions in line, but we just have space for one last question. So I'm going to take the one coming from Bhanumati. She wants to know, for blue-collar workers where the use of technology is very limited in the Indian context, how can we use gamification for HR processes like pre-onboarding and inductions, since it is their first experience?
All right. Okay, so I think Bhanumati. All right.
Sorry, go ahead, Kamal.
So I think, Bhanumati, that's a wonderful question. We are already currently engaged in some layer of work on the blue-collar side. So that's interesting. But I think the answer to that really is that Renu has already talked about it. Everything need not be online, but There could be elements that you do online, and there could be elements that you do offline. But to give you a quick example, you could run an entirely offline board as well, except that the manual back-end work is going to be enormous. But it is entirely possible, and from pre-boarding to, say, exit, you could run it in a manner that you want. But it still is going to be, the benefits of technology are that, it reduces your manual stuff that you need to do, because otherwise you'll have to do forms and people will have to do. So one needs to actually possibly understand what you want before it could be done SMS. There is a wide variety of things that can be done out there. So in our experience, you will need to look at gamifying it both ways in the blue collar, but there is going to be some bit of technology that is going to be required. And in fact, today's blue collar is not all that behind. That's been our experience. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Tamal. Renu, do you want to add anything to that, or we can wrap up the question and answer?
I think we're good with the Q&A. Just before you close, Shweta, I just want to appreciate the participation that everyone's shown. Number of Q&A questions and answers is just wonderful. I also want to take this opportunity to thank Madhavi for taking time out, not only to provide her input, but also for fielding a few questions. I really appreciate that. And thanks to People Matters, of course.
Thank you so much, Renu. And yes, we have so many questions in line, very focused, pertaining to employee referrals, performance management, training. So ensured we are going to take all of them offline. We'll surely share with our audience as well. Now, with this question and answer session, we are going to wrap up today's webinar. Once again, a big thank you to our webinar partner, Changing. And of course, a very special thank you to our speakers for today, Tamal Bhatia, Renu Kotian, and Madhvi Tanikela, for this webinar and the amazing insights and information that they have shared with us today. Of course, it was a wonderful topic and very well taken care of. And I would like to thank everyone in the webinar audience for participating and sharing their thoughts and questions with us today. We will come back to you with many more, like always. So with this, we conclude today's webcast. Thank you all and have a great day ahead.